For the last, I guess, few points, inshallah ta'ala, what I'm going to do is hand it over to our brother Abu Ibrahim, Allah yahfaduh, to inshallah conclude on this session and maybe also talk a little bit about what you do after the session and how you bring it to a close. In general, all I'll mention in bringing it to a close is, in general, 10-15 minutes a person usually needs to be observed at the end of the ruqya to ensure that they are okay with themselves and that they are sort of comfortable, and that's probably something that you should bear in mind. When you've come to a conclusion, you've finished what you'd already decided before that you were going to recite, and you're happy with the conclusion, you bring it to a conclusion, you stop it there, and you're going to observe the person for a short period of time, perhaps 10-15 minutes, to make sure that they are okay, that they're healthy, that the jinn has let go of them, and that you're going to be able to take them away safely. Be careful if they're driving themselves home. You may want to make that considerably longer time. If they're driving themselves home, be so careful that you don't put the person in a state where they're going to harm themselves. So inshallah, to talk about some more points and maybe how to conclude the ruqya session, and I guess maybe a little bit about what we do when the jinn, or how do we know when the jinn leaves, or what happened when the jinn leaves, I'm going to hand it over to our brother Abu Ibrahim, hafidhahullah ta'ala.
Okay, fine. During the ruqya session, you may want to spray some water on the patient. You may find that spraying the water on the patient is extremely beneficial. And subhanallah, it's just water, okay? It's just water, but subhanallah, once it's been recited over, and in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, due to the blessings of Allah, sometimes it has a major effect on the shaitan. It burns them the way acid would burn us. It burns them the way acid would burn us. And this is what we would call, let's say, an alternative or an additional therapy. We'll talk about this slightly later, insha'Allah. Now, whilst you are reciting, if this person begins to feel extremely sick, or their stomach becomes very bloated, then now we are getting into a few of the signs now. Perhaps this is sihr. Perhaps they have eaten something. So from your initial questions, you'll say, tell me, how is your digestive system? Do you get an extremely bad stomach? Do you find, you have irritable bowel syndrome or things like this? These are some of the questions that you'll be able to develop as you gain more knowledge. And the person will say, yeah, I always have a really bad stomach. Anything that I eat goes straight through me. I've had all of the tests and all of the trials in front of the doctors. Nothing seems to be coming back. So now you're beginning again to develop a bit of a theory. Not be firm on a theory. Always be ready, as our brother has told us, always be ready to correct yourself. I thought this, but you know what, I'm going to go back. So the person, now that you are reciting, they're feeling really sick. They have a really bad stomach. And they feel like they want to vomit. Again, part of the ruqya, make sure you have a bag or a bin or a bucket, something that they can vomit into if needs be. Something that is available, otherwise they're going to be vomiting on your carpet or on their carpet or on your clothes or on their clothes. So have preparation, have something ready there that they can vomit into if needs be. Sometimes when the sihr is in the stomach, then subhanallah, you may find that when that person is reciting, they feel like vomiting, but something is stopping them. They really feel like they're on the verge of vomiting, but they just can't get it out. Again, we will look at those things which, insha'Allah, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, those additional, those bits, add-ons, herbs, medicines, which will insha'Allah facilitate this. Where should you do the ruqya? Should you do the ruqya in the masjid? Should you do the ruqya outside in the park or in the graveyard? Should you do the ruqya in your own home? The first thing, ya ikhwan, is the best place to do the ruqya is in the masjid. The best place to do the ruqya is in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where there are Muslims from amongst the people, Muslims from amongst the jinn. Insha'Allah, there are angels. This is the best place. And the place that you do the ruqya, it seems to have an effect on the effectiveness of the ruqya. So the ruqya which is performed in Medina is not like the ruqya which is performed in Birmingham. Completely different. It's just the place, ya ikhwan. The barakah which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in that land is not like the barakah or the lack of it that we have here. So the place, it does influence the effectiveness of the ruqya by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You also, as you start doing ruqya on people, you're going to need to be aware. Are you going to be traveling out to them? In this case, take into consideration how long you're going to spend traveling there, how long you're going to spend talking, how long you're going to spend reciting, and then to go back as well. What you don't want to do is your ruqya, it causes you to split from your own wife. You need to think about your own life as well. You need to think about your own lifestyle as well. Your family, it has rights over you. Your body, it has rights over you. Your friends, they have rights over you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this deen has rights over you. Give everything its right. Give everything its due right, ya ikhwan. So are you then going to be somebody who travels out? How far are you willing to travel? How much money are you willing to spend to get to a place? What will you then do, etc., etc.? We need to look at this. This is something that you yourself, you need to understand. Now me personally, I do ruqya in my own home. This is due to obviously working 9 to 5, and then obviously I don't have the time to go out and visit people, etc., etc. So I call the people, I invite them into my own home. Things you need to be aware of now. Number one, you're going to have to give your address out to people. Are you prepared to do this? And there may be people who visit you, they're not possessed, they don't have jinn, they are mentally deranged. Do you want this person to have your address? Something to think about. But put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are doing this for His sake and His sake alone. Allah Jalla wa ala, He will protect you. Your home is going to be a place where you are regularly encountering jinn. Okay? Which means that especially your home, you need to make sure that you take precautions to protect your home. When the jinn come, there might be a jinn in this person's body, there may be jinn around this person as well. Okay? Which are there to enforce the contract, to make sure that this jinn doesn't leave. You're going to need to make sure that your family are aware of this. Make sure that your family, your children, they are protected. Even more so than if you were doing it elsewhere. Are you going to go into somebody else's home? Are you going to go into somebody else's home and to do the ruqya there? Again, ya ikhwan, all of these things you need to understand. You need to take these things into consideration. If you're doing it in the masjid, you must ask permission from the masjid. Okay? The last thing that the people who are at the madrasa, the children, the last thing they want is a person screaming and roaring and running around, and you're wrestling them and they're trying to learn about the Arabic alphabet, subhanallah. So ask permission from your local masjid. And of course, if it's a masjid upon tawheed and sunnah, then you should be doing it there. Do not go to ahlul bid'ah and say, can we use your masjid? There's probably even more shayateen in that masjid than there are in your ruqya cases. So go to the places of tawheed, go to those places of sunnah. Okay, now, how do we decide when to end our situation? When to end our ruqya session? Our brother Muhammad Hafidhullah has mentioned, you've gone in and you've said, right, I'm going to recite a third of Surah Al-Baqarah, I'm going to recite all the ayat of sihr. Now I want to add something to what our brother has mentioned. What happens if you've recited this and towards the end of your recitation, the jinn comes up now? Do you then say, Assalamu alaikum, I've recited what I wanted, end of session? No, you're going to have to add to that now. You've done an hour and a half of recitation. You've reached a peak after 1.5 hours of burning with Qur'an. The jinn has finally surfaced. Now is our opportunity. Do we just end it there or do we continue? Continue, ya ikhwan. But you need to know when to stop. You need to know when to stop. Because if you're reciting for 15 hours straight, again, you're not going to want to come back to this person. This person is going to find it physically draining. Again, so many factors that we need to think about. So many things that we need to consider. Okay, first and foremost now. What about if the jinn leaves as a result of your recitation by the grace and permission of Allah? Some things to look out for. some things to look out for. The jinn is going to want to leave from a particular part of the body. So it may want to leave through a finger. It may want to leave through a foot. It may want to leave through the throat. Don't let it leave through the throat, please, because it may cause damage to the throat. If it leaves through the finger or the arm or the leg, alhamdulillah, these things will recover, but we don't want to cause lasting damage to the person's throat. So if this thing is saying, I want to leave, and the person's mouth is beginning to open up, I advise you say, look, don't leave through his throat because you're going to cause him problems, and then I'm going to cause you problems. Leave through his hand, leave through his foot, whatever it may be. What you will then find is the foot, or say we'll talk from the hand. You say leave through his left hand. Okay, the left hand will probably start vibrating, start shaking, will start lifting up, will start stretching, and the person will really go into, this is like an exceptional circumstance now. You're going to know that things are not right. The hand is shaking, vibrating, it's going up. Perhaps the person's body is lifting up into the air, like what we may have seen in the movies, astaghfirullah. What we may have seen into the movies, you might have seen in the movies, the body's lifting up. These things, you may see these things. You may see these things. Or maybe the leg is lifting up, vibrating very high. The person isn't normally this flexible, but the leg is going so high up into the air, and maybe the person gets lifted off the ground from the leg. All of these things. And then suddenly, bang, nothing. So there is a huge amount of commotion, there is a lot of things going on, and then suddenly, finished. The hand drops, the leg drops, the foot drops, whatever it might be. This now, usually, it is a sign that the jinn may have left. But it may also be a sign that the jinn, it is trying to fool you. It's fooling you into vibrating the hands, etc. And it's fooling you, I'm going. Suddenly it stops, and the jinn has just gone and hid in the back of his leg. And you say, alhamdulillah, you call the person back, end of ruqya, and khalas. And the jinn is hiding is still within his leg. So continue with your recitation, even after this type of thing happens, and the person seems to wake up, and it seems to be this person, continue with your recitation for another 10-15 minutes, just to drill it home. So be aware that this may be that the jinn has actually left, but at the same time, it may be that the jinn is trying to fool you. Okay, the jinn hasn't left now. I've recited for an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, and I want to bring an end to the session. This is something that I do. Perhaps our brother Muhammad will add or improve on what I do. What I do is I spray, first I make the adhan. I call the adhan in their ear, I spray water on their face, and I call them by their name. You call them back by their name, and alhamdulillah, the person will wake up, and they will wake up and they will feel really, really tired, but alhamdulillah, the person comes back. So you just call them by their name, give them a spray of some water, splash some water on them. Inshallah, we'll see this in the Ruqya session later on. Splash some water on them, call them by their name. Alhamdulillah, the person will come back now. But they usually come back. I've had one case where the person, they seemed to come back, and I had some water that I'd recited on, and it was a sister. I said, here you go, sister, have some water. And it was actually the jinn, and the jinn came and splashed the water all over my face and drenched me. So I thought it was the sister, but it wasn't. It was actually the jinn. But the vast majority of cases, it will be the person. They come back. Give them some space now. They are going to feel like they have been beaten up. They are going to feel battered and bruised. It's extremely physically draining. Ruqya is physically draining on you as a raqi through your recitation, and it's also physically draining on the patient. They feel like they have been involved in a fight, and many times they say, I feel like I've been beaten up minus the bruises. So give them some space now. Don't jump on them. How are you feeling? Everything good? Give them some space. Give them some time to relax, to come back. Give them a drink of water. Just give them some space to just relax. Tell them to relax now. Say, you okay? Just relax. Give them a couple of minutes to relax. You take a break. You relax. You take some water. Relax your voice, etc. And just relax now. Now, the first thing that they're going to say is, what's wrong with me? Am I cured? Ya ikhwan, in my opinion, one of the greatest errors of the ruqa is that we are quick to diagnose, and we are ashamed to say, Allah knows best. We are ashamed to say, look, I'm not quite sure, but you need more ruqya. I'm not quite sure, but you should continue with your ruqya. There's no harm in saying this, because you know that the ruqya has had an effect by the permission of Allah. You don't need to pinpoint, it is sihr, and it was done on this day, and it was done by this person, and it's this type of sihr, this type of jinn, this type of effect. No. You know that this person is suffering, and you know whether the shifa it lies within the Qur'an. So don't be afraid to say to the person, look, I'm not sure, I don't want to say, because if you say it's evil eye, and it's actually jinn possession, you're going to cause a lot of harm. If you say it's jinn possession and it's evil eye, you're going to cause a lot of damage. If you say it's magic and it's not, then imagine what the shaitan is now going to whisper to this person. You are possessed, you've got problems, you've got magic on you, and the person doesn't have magic, they have evil eye. So do not be afraid to just say, just relax. I don't know, but come for another session. Here are some ayat of ruqya. Go away and perform the ruqya upon yourself. Important point now, ikhwan. One of the things that we fail to do, I apologize if you're going to mention this, but one of the things that we fail to do is we say, Alhamdulillah, you're cured, and the person stops ruqya. Alhamdulillah, there's nothing wrong, and the person stops ruqya. It's like, and I liken it to weeding. If you pull out the weed, you can pull out the top, but if the root is still there, then eventually it's going to come back, it's going to regrow. We're dealing with a case now. 4 years ago, the brother had ruqya. 4 years ago, he had ruqya. He thought that he had been cured, and now 4 years later, he is suffering much worse, and the jinn has come back. Because they didn't increase. What's wrong? If the jinn leaves, and you're certain that the jinn has left, the person feels renewed, they feel cured, they feel wonderful by the permission of Allah. What's wrong with you saying, you know what, as a precautionary measure, I want you to do 1 more month of self-ruqya. As a precautionary measure, I want you to go and have cupping. As a precautionary measure, continue on with your self-ruqya. It's better to do too much, although you can't do too much recitation of Qur'an, but it's better to do a lot of recitation of Qur'an than it is to do too little and allow the problem to come back. So always encourage them, post-ruqya session, put your trust in Allah, do not associate any success with me, go away, and this shouldn't be the only ruqya that you have. Never ever make your ruqya the only ruqya that your patient has. Because they should be supplementing your ruqya, rather the other way around, They should be supplementing their ruqya, which is 80%, with your ruqya. So you are just taking, and you're just giving them a bit of momentum, you're giving them a bit of a push, rather the main impetus should come from themselves, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
Couple of points just to finish this session off, inshaAllah ta'ala. One is a skill that you will need to develop. And I don't think you ever develop it completely, but it's a skill that is useful to develop, and you should endeavor to try to practice it, which is to recognize when the jinn has control of someone and when they come back to themselves. And I think this is something that you will learn over time, and it's something that you won't always get right. There will be times, like Abu Ibrahim mentioned, when you don't get it right and you think the person's come back to themselves. But in general, look at the eyes, look at the face, look at generally the person's demeanor, and just start to get, everyone's different, but just get those telltale signs from that individual that, oh, the person's come back, the jinn's let go of them, and bear in mind that, ya ikhwan, please bear this in mind, that ruqya is peaks and troughs, in the sense that the jinn will come and scream and kick and shout and swear and spit, gone. Don't stop and say, oh, jinn's gone, alhamdulillah. Keep on going. The jinn comes back again. It's another peak. Kicking, screaming, spitting, swearing. Down again. Person goes to sleep. If you can, try to keep the person fairly awake. Keep them fairly conscious, okay? So you could have some smelling salts. You can have some red mist, like I'm going to talk about in a moment. Some perfume or something that just makes them come back to themselves. keep them awake if you can, even when the jinn is there. But there's times when they'll be dead to the world. One of the cases I had, subhanAllah, it's one of the hardest cases to deal with. It was very easy, it took a very short amount of time, bifadlillah. It took a very short amount of time. But the person just went dead. I actually thought I killed them. I actually, honestly, genuinely thought that I had killed them. I said to the mahram, please check she's breathing. He said she's breathing. Then we poured water on her, she didn't react. Not even move a bit. The mahram slapped her hand, she didn't react. He pinched her, she didn't react. Completely dead to the world, except that her heart was beating. And in the end, all you had to do is to make dua, to continue reading, to be patient, and over time she recovered. And Allah Azza wa Jal knows best what happened. Some suggested that perhaps the jinn was knocked out in a situation where he was still in control of the body, so she became neither sort of like the jinn nor the person, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. This is just a hypothesis and an idea, and at the end of the day the knowledge is with Allah Azza wa Jal. But the reality is that it's useful to recognize the two, to watch when the person comes back to themselves, because sometimes, especially when you're spraying someone in the face with water and they come back to themselves, they often don't appreciate, die jinn, die, and you're sort of spraying, and they say, it's me. So don't guarantee, don't rely upon it, because you'll get it wrong. But at the same time, just be situationally aware. Also, just a reminder, just when we talked about the world of the jinn, and we said the jinn are different types. The jinn are different types, and they react in some ways to different supplementary things. Some will react more to water than others, depending on the circumstance, the person. Don't take it as a hard and fast thing. If water didn't work on the first session, that it won't work on the second. Be prepared to use it, be prepared to change, inshaAllah ta'ala. And bi-idhnillahi azza wa jal, you will develop your experience and develop your skill. Be calm and be relaxed about it, and inshaAllah ta'ala things will work out for you in the right way. Okay, we have 25 minutes left, and we have two major modules. We have three, but the third is a conclusion, and we can leave that until the Ruqya case, inshallah. But we have questions, and we also have two modules to finish. So I'm just going to dive straight into a very, very quick module on prophetic and herbal medicine in Ruqya. Some of the people may say, if you're reciting the Quran, why do you need anything else? The answer is you don't need anything else. But that there is knowledge in general medicine, the medicine of the Prophet ﷺ, and the knowledge of medicine that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given some of us, that may be of use to you in helping to facilitate the Ruqya. It's not a replacement for the Ruqya. Please, ya ikhwan, understand this. Herbal medicine, prophetic medicine is absolutely not a replacement for Ruqya. It is an aid for Ruqya. It's a supplementary use that you can benefit from, that you can help potentially, if you get it right, to get the jinn to leave a lot more quickly. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ made it clear that every illness has a cure. When the cure matches the illness, when the cure meets the illness exactly, the person is cured by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So a jinn that is residing in the stomach, that is causing someone a great deal of problem, you may be able to give someone some herbal medicine that will help them to vomit, and that may enable them to more quickly progress through the stages. This is not something you need. If you don't understand it, you don't need it. It's just a supplementary aid that you can use, and there are some brothers who are incredibly gifted in this field, subhanallah. Some brothers who have a great deal of knowledge about herbal medicine and the medicine of the Prophet ﷺ. And this, of course, is something that Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah talked about in detail. Of course, one of the things we want to talk about before we talk about this is to mention the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, treat your sick with sadaqah. So one of the supplementary things that you can do is to encourage the family to give sadaqah. And this will help to purify yourself when you're not the recipient of the sadaqah, by encouraging them to give the sadaqah to, why don't you give it to some orphans, why don't you give it to the poor, why don't you give it sadaqah jariyah, give it to the local masjid. If the masjid has given you the permission to use the hall, say, look, you know what it is, I don't charge for my ruqya, but you know, subhanallah, why don't you just pop something as much or as little as you like in the box of the masjid to help them pay for the electricity and so on and so forth. This will help to purify your intention because you've confirmed that you're not getting any gain out of it, and also it will help to cure their sick, cure your sick with sadaqah. Okay? So there are supplementary things that you can do. Now we're going to cover a great number of things, and I'm going to mention them in a limited amount of detail. I'm not going to give you too much in terms of prescriptions and amounts. Please be careful. Please be careful, ya ikhwan. There is herbal medicine that can cause people a great deal of harm. If you don't know what you're doing, don't use it. You don't need it. But once you develop a degree of understanding, you can help yourself with supplementary aids. Supplementary aids for Ruqya. We said one of the supplementary aids for Ruqya is physical pressure. Not beating severely, but physical pressure. Following the jinn around in the body. When it's permissible to do so, i.e. when it doesn't involve the women. You can follow the jinn around in the body, and this is something that Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah was extremely keen to recommend to do, to put gentle pressure, to make it difficult for the jinn to reside in one place, to make it difficult for the jinn to move around freely around the body, to keep on. This can be in the form of a gentle massage, the form of light pressure on the place. Again, you don't need it. If you don't know how to do it, don't do it, because you're going to cause somebody harm. When you develop a bit of knowledge about it, it's something that you can add into your Ruqya to help speed things up. From the things that is a supplementary aid, Ruqya audio. Audio of the Quran that has been recorded with the intention of Ruqya. I have a couple. I recommend Shaykh al-Ajami, Ali al-Ajami's Ruqya audio has been usually quite beneficial. And likewise, Shaykh Luhaydan, Muhammad al-Luhaydan has some audio which is also quite beneficial. Ruqya audio, again, it's a supplementary aid. Ya akhi, don't replace your Ruqya and their Ruqya with MP3s. But if you want to supplement Ruqya with some Ruqya audio, listen to this. They're traveling in the car, someone's driving them to your house, and you have them put the earphones in and just listen. Or you say when you go to sleep at night for half an hour, when they're too tired to read the Quran, pop the earphones in, have a listen. It's not the same as real Ruqya, because Ruqya is on the breath. Ruqya is in the recitation and the blowing and all of the other things. But at the end of the day, it's a supplementary aid that you can use and you can help yourself with. If you've got too many patients, you've had a double booking, let one maybe listen to some Ruqya audio while you're dealing with the other one. These are all things that you can just balance and use in a balanced way. Okay? There are many herbs and medicines. From the herbs and medicines, in no particular order, includes things like saffron, things like bath salts. There are some very good bath salts that are made up of certain herbs and things like that, and we're inshallah going to try to provide some recipes to you at a later date, inshallah, as we're developing them for some things. You can put them in the bath, the person can bathe themselves. It may help to weaken the jinn and just generally to give the body a bit of a prep in preparation for your Ruqya. And in general, one of the Ruqa, he advised me, and I do think this is good advice, is try to prepare your patients before they come. Get them to recite some on themselves, get someone else reciting on them, bit of Ruqya audio maybe a bath in some bath salts, maybe some oil rubbed on them that's been recited. Get them prepared so that you can very quickly get to the point where the jinn is reacting, if you can and when you can. Ruqya water we've already mentioned. Same ayat as we've talked about before, the same stuff that you recite. When you recite, you blow. One of the techniques that some of the shuyukh in Saudi Arabia use for the Ruqya audio, for the Ruqya water is very good, is that they have their own bottle of water and they leave it a quarter empty. And usually it's Zamzam. And what they do is the patient brings their own bottle of Zamzam to the Ruqya session. And what the Shaykh he does is he's constantly reading over the water all the time. In his general recitation, in his Ruqya, he's got the water there, he's blowing in it every now and again. What he does is, he pours the water from the patient into the bottle. So it's all mixed up. Then he pours it back out. So the bottle that's been given to the patient has been recited on, sometimes Al-Baqarah has been recited over it 10 times. Because of the amount the Shaykh's been reading, poured a bit in, poured a bit out, poured a bit in, poured a bit out. And that is just a little technique some of the shuyukh use. You can feel free to use it or not to use it. It's a technique that some of the shuyukh in Saudi use, and it helps to maintain sort of, effective Ruqya water that you can use to spray, to give them to drink, and so on and so forth. Some of the things that are mentioned regarding ayn, some people treat ayn with seawater baths and sea salt baths. Again, this is something that hasn't got a great deal of evidence from the sunnah, but you feel free as a medicine, as a herbal medicine, to try sea salt and to try seawater bath if you wish. Truffles are also reportedly very good for ayn. Some of the ulama base this on the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said that the truffle is a shifa for the eye. And they said, most of the scholars of hadith, they translate the word shifa as shifa for the eye, the actual eye, as in you put the water in your eye. But some of the ulama, they said the word eye is general and it can include the evil eye. So we'll talk about preparing truffles. The problem with truffles is they're very, very expensive. And I don't want you to waste a huge amount of money on, supplementary medicine when you have the Quran and it's free. Honey, major important thing. Get them drinking good quality honey. Good quality honey. Not nasty, cheap supermarket sugar honey, yeah? Manuka honey is very good. Likewise, Sidr honey is very good. But generally, good quality honey. Honey that is of a very high quality. If you go to the supermarket, maybe I quite commonly buy the Manuka honey, 6+, 10+ Manuka honey. It's not the only thing, but it is a very high quality kind of honey. Things like rose water, sometimes they put in the bath. We know we use the rose water to clean. And in general, I think rose water, rather than being a cure of its own, is useful because anything that is a nice smell and anything that's quite perfumey, a lot of the jinn, they don't like it. They don't like nice smells. They don't like things like that. So you can use perfume. You can, obviously, with the brothers, you can use these blocks, red blocks of misk. You get them in a lot of Pakistani, they're made in Pakistan, and you get them in a lot of Asian shops. They're kind of like red square blocks and they smell quite strong. They're like a soap and they're kind of red blocks of misk. And these are quite useful. You can put it up the patient's nose. They don't like it at all. You can use it like smelling salts. If you don't like the smell of smelling salts, you can rub the red misk cubes under their nose and the jinn will usually wake up very severely. Black seed. The black seed is a cure for everything except for death. Use the oil, but use good quality oil. Use ground seeds that you give to people. We're going to talk about some recipes later, yeah? Use the whole seeds, 7 whole seeds, and drink with the honey water. Very, very beneficial, okay? Cupping is from the major causes of cure. We now, myself and Abu Ibrahim, cupping is an integral part of our ruqya. It's too long to talk about cupping now, but we have with us a brother, if he has some time, he may be able to share some time with us. We have a hijam with us who, mashallah, has performed hijama on someone today, and maybe he'll be able to share some time to answer some of your questions on cupping. So it's useful for a Raqi to learn how to cup, and it's useful to have a good hijam on hand who you can refer people to, male and female, because you're going to need a woman to do the women and a man to do the men. So you have a male and female hijam, and you may integrate the hijama with the ruqya. So you do the hijama just before the ruqya, or you do a little bit of ruqya, and then you begin the hijama to try to encourage the jinn to come out through the blood. From the herbs that is said to be useful against the jinn is asafoetida. Don't ask me how to spell it. I believe in Urdu it's called hing. Asafoetida, and it's a garlic substitute. And again, some people use it in some of the medicine that they give. It's a herb. It's not, people will turn and say, you can't use this, you can't use it. It's a herb, it's a medicine. It's like giving someone paracetamol. It's up to you what you use. It's a simple herb. You may find benefit in it, you may not find any benefit in it. From the benefit is al-qist al-hindi. Al-qist al-hindi and al-qist al-bahri. Costus, Indian costus and white costus. Both of them can be made into a little mixture and used for nose drops. They can be given as part of a ruqya program, and they can often be very, very beneficial. Generally, I've used red Indian costus and put it into a little bit of water, a little bit of oil, and used it as a nose drop. It can be very, very, very effective in causing the jinn to react very severely. And again, these are things that you can learn by, spending some time with the ruqa. There are different types of misk you can use to wake the jinn up. Makkah musk, the red musk we talked about. We talked about ajwa dates. Of course, the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever eats in the morning 7 ajwa dates, and there are 7, you can remember this, I think, off the top of my head, there are 7 different wordings of this hadith. 7 dates and 7 different wordings of the hadith. From the wording of the hadith are ajwa dates. Will not be harmed by sihr or poison on that day. Ajwa dates. Ajwa dates from Aliyatul Medina. Dates from Medina. Regular dates. There are many wordings of the hadith. My advice to you is this. If you can get Ajwa dates from an area of Medina called Al-Aliyah, Aliyatul Medina, that's the area towards Masjid Quba in Medina, then do so. If you can't, get any Ajwa dates. If you can't, get any Medina dates. If you can't, get regular dates, Bismillah. 7 dates, eat them with believing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it a cure for you. Allah Azza wa Jal will cause the sihr not to affect you on that day. Beware that a patient who is severely affected by sihr will often hide them. We have a lot of fun giving patients ajwa dates. 5 go in the mouth, 2 go on the floor. 2 go in the mouth, 1 gets fingers in the mouth, vomit them up again. Yeah, so they don't like to have them. Ajwa dates. Okay, olive oil we mentioned. I recommend cold pressed extra virgin olive oil, the highest quality. And I personally recommend from Palestine for the simple reason that Palestine is a land that Allah Azza wa Jal described as being mubarakah in the Quran. A land which is full of barakah. The tree is barakah and the land is barakah. So if you can get the oil that is from the tree of barakah in the land of barakah, then this is something good. But inshallah, any olive oil of good quality will be something useful. Some of the ulama, they use ground rhubarb. And again, this is in some of the recipes, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. So we use senna and sidr. Senna is something which is what they call a purgative medicine. It causes you to have diarrhea and it causes you to have loose bowels. They give you senna tablets when you have constipation, okay? I'm talking about senna leaves. What you're going to do is, you're going to boil a pan and you're going to put some senna leaves in the pan. A pinch, a handful, a teaspoon, whatever. And you're going to boil them in the pan for some time. And then you're going to leave it, and you usually leave it from Isha until Fajr. You can give them right away, but the way I was taught to do it is to leave it from Isha until Fajr, and then at Fajr you give them this, you fish out the leaves and you give them this kind of yellowy senna water to drink. Do not give it to them repeatedly day after day after day. Couple of days, 3 days, do not give it to them repeatedly, you will cause them damage, okay? Try and give them the senna for a couple of days. The senna tablets have written on, and I don't like the senna tablets, I prefer to make the mixture. But the senna tablets, especially if you make the mixture with zamzam or ruqya water. But the senna tablets have on them, do not take them repeatedly, okay? So give people a bit of a break. Sidr, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that 7 leaves of the sidr tree, that's the lotus tree. And it's also called lotus and lot, I found both of them. And the sidr, you take 7 leaves. If you can't get the 7 leaves because they're all broken up into pieces, just use a teaspoon and say Bismillah. But you try to get 7 leaves as much as you can. You can give some of the water, you put them in water, you mix them up, you give the person to drink some, and some of them you put it in the bath. And this was the advice of Shaykh bin Baz, rahimahullah ta'ala, to drink some of it and to put some of it in the bath. And the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is that sidr is effective against magic, okay? There are some other purgative medicines that you can give people, like sal ammoniac and some other things, which basically cause people to have diarrhea. It's not very nice. Don't give them in large amounts. Be careful. It's someone's body you're playing with. If you don't know what you're doing, just stick with the ruqya of the Quran. If you know what you're doing, then as you develop some knowledge in this, you can stick to some recipes people have given. And likewise, emetics like ibkap, things that cause people to vomit. There is some particular brothers who make herbal concoctions that are deadly. You know, we have this brother, mashallah, tabarakallah, he gives us a little bit of powder. We give it to the patients in some mango juice. Within 10 minutes, that patient will be vomiting and vomiting and vomiting and severe diarrhea for something like 48 hours. You do not use this at random, or I'll try it and see how it goes. But when you see the stomach is bulging and the person is desperate to vomit, and they actually, sometimes they'll faint because how much they want to vomit, you can give them something that is an emetic that will cause them to vomit, and so perhaps they will vomit up some of the sihr, and you will see things come out. We have a sister who we read upon who gets green things, random shapes and things that just come out of her nose, bits of hair, fur balls, all sorts of stuff. So you beware of what you might see. Very, very briefly, there are some recipes. I'll just give you an example, and you know, don't worry about writing it all down, inshallah. You can catch the video, inshallah ta'ala. One of the recipes that I was given, which I find it quite useful, is to take 1/2 kilogram of honey, and to add a tablespoon of ground black seed, a tablespoon of ground senna, a tablespoon of ground rhubarb, and a tablespoon of ground cumin, to mix them all up together, and to take a tablespoon of the mixture with a glass of Ruqya water every morning. I'm not going to repeat it, Habib, inshallah. I'll repeat it to you afterwards, bi'idhnillah, because of the time. We literally have 8 minutes and we have another module to fill. 1/2 kilogram of honey, tablespoon of ground black seed, tablespoon of ground senna, tablespoon of ground rhubarb, tablespoon of ground cumin. Mix them all together. You'll get a big honey mush. Put them in the honey pot. Take a tablespoon of that honey mixture every morning and put it into a glass of Ruqya water. Stir it around, dissolve it, warm the water up a bit, dissolve it in the water, give it to the person to drink. It's very, very useful. It contains a number of things that are cures in the sunnah. From this is the advice of Sheikh Adil Al-Muqbil. He has a 7-day program. You can find it on my website, muhammadtim.com, muhammadtim.com. And Sheikh has a 7-day program which involves reciting on olive oil, putting it on at night, washing it off in the morning, putting Ruqya water over yourself in the morning, and drinking Ruqya water 3 times a day with honey and black seed. It's very, very, very useful. It's very effective, and it does help to break down the magic or break down the jinn problem. And it helps to get rid of the evil eye as well, because it contains honey, which is a cure, contains black seed, which is a cure, contains olive oil, which is a blessed tree that is a cure, and it contains Ruqya water, which is a cure. So it contains a number of different cures, and the instructions are on the website. As for preparing the truffles, this is the last thing I'll talk about. The problem with truffles is they're very expensive. But if you do use them, the problem is preserving them. There's 2 ways to preserve them. One is to cut them up and put them into a brown paper bag and leave them in the fridge, and they become rock hard. And the other way is to cut them into tiny cubes, put them into some good quality olive oil, and freeze them in the freezer. When you want to use them, you defrost the thing and you take a single piece out. You take a small cube, something like a square centimeter sort of cube. You chop it up really, really, really small, puree it, drop it into some water, boil it up in the water, and give people a mint teacup, you know, like a little finjal, a little mint teacup. You give them about twice a day of the truffle, and people who suffer from severe ayn have found a great deal of benefit in it. But I advise you again, these are supplementary medicines. They may help, they may not, they may work, they may not. The Quran is your ultimate cure and the ultimate thing that you're concerned with. Continuing straight away into the last topic, and we're going to try and have a system for dealing with the questions inshallah later on. But we have 5 minutes until Salah. I'm going to split this between myself and Brother Abu Ibrahim regarding innovations and bad practice in Ruqya. We've mentioned a number of them already. From the types that we're going to talk about are things like people talking about visualizations, visual Ruqya. Imagine you're beating the jinn up in your mind. I put the jinn in a bottle. Any kind of weirdness that you hear, take it with a pinch of salt. You know, when you hear weirdness, you hear Iraqi and he ties the person's fingers and toes and then he makes them blow into a bottle and he says the jinn is in the bottle. Whenever you hear someone who says he has control over the jinn, be careful. The Prophet ﷺ was shy to tie up the jinn in the masjid because he remembered the dua of Sulaiman alayhi salam. So do not get into these innovative practices, weird things, controlling the jinn, seeking help from the jinn. From those people, and I'm not shy to say, walillahi alhamd, from those people who seek help from the jinn is this man who comes from France and his name is Bin Halima. This person is someone who is mustaghithun bis shaitan. He seeks the help of the jinn and the shaitan. I'm not going to say he does it deliberately. Allahu alam, he does it deliberately or not. But I've followed his situation for a number of years, I think now. And from this, I have sent a brother to go and see him. And I have been there when he was there in performing the Ruqya. And the brother I sent, he's knowledgeable about these issues, and we looked at the evidence and we came to the conclusion that this is a person who seeks the help of the shaitan. This is a person, whether he knows it or not, whether the shaitan have just confused him or whether he actually knows it, he is mustaghithun bil jinn. He is someone who is seeking the help of the jinn, and he brings the jinn to tell people what is wrong with them. And he says that he can catch the jinn by reading Aynama takunu ya'ti bikum Allahu jami'a. Say, MashaAllah, you're the first one in the universe to be able to do this. The Prophet ﷺ did not do it, and the Sahaba did not do it, and the major Imams of Ruqya like Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim didn't do it, but MashaAllah, bin Halima is the first person, MashaAllah, Tabarakallah, who is able to capture the jinn through this ayah. In reality, we saw the people he hangs around with. They're all people who seek help with the jinn and the shaitan. They're all people who do these kind of practices. So we're not frightened to warn about them. And if they have some issues with that, they can come and see us, and we will demonstrate to them what it is that we mean. Bi-idhnillahi tabaraka wa ta'ala. Do not be fooled, ya ikhwan, about success of a raqi who is not upon the sunnah. For two reasons. Number one, we know that success can come through haram ways and halal ways, but only the halal way is true success. For example, the magician may be able to remove a jinn by sending a jinn that is more powerful. I saw a video recently of a priest, a Coptic priest in Egypt. He goes with the cross, and the Muslims come to him, subhanallah. The Muslims come to him and they say, perform ruqya upon me, O priest. And he touches them with the cross and he says, in the name of Isa, I cure you. And the jinn is thinking, MashaAllah, this is a field day. Khalas, my only job was to make this person commit shirk. They committed shirk, I'm off. Or he has a jinn with him that is more powerful than their jinn, and they take that jinn out by force, and he says, you are cured, now accept this religion of Christianity. Likewise, there is another reason why people may be successful when they're not upon the sunnah. And we're not talking about the Christians here, but we're talking about some of the Muslims who their practices are not correct. They have some innovative practices in their ruqya. But because they are fighting against the shaitan, and because they are trying to do their best, Allah Azza wa Jal gives them a degree of success. That doesn't mean what they do is right. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah mentions this group when he says, how can the Asha'ira, those people who twist the names and attributes of Allah, be successful in jihad fi sabilillah? Ibn Taymiyyah mentions at length why the Asha'ira are successful in jihad fi sabilillah. In this case, he said, they were fighting against the enemies of Allah Azza wa Jal from the worst of the people, and the people who came to kill the Muslims. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them a degree of success by the fact that they were trying to do something for the sake of Allah. But does that mean that because an Ash'ari won a battle, the likes of Salah ad-Din rahimahullah, or someone like this won a battle, that means that we should all become Asha'ira? Absolutely not. Just because a Iraqi is successful in something, judge his practices by the Quran and by the Sunnah. Things I wanted to mention, but looking at the time, I just want to give our brother Abu Ibrahim a couple of minutes to add to some of the stories and his experiences and some of the things that he's noticed regarding innovations and bad practices. And maybe we can just have a word about money and ruqa who take a great deal of money for what they do.
Okay, one of the bad practices involved in this ruqya, in this field of ruqya, we mentioned that two of the biggest trials that are going to come upon you as Iraqi is the trial of women and the trial of money. The trial of women and the trial of money. One of the bad practices that we have, ya ikhwan, is these people who they take advantage of our brothers and sisters at their time of need, and they charge them not tens, not 20s, not hundreds, ya ikhwan, thousands of pounds. We have examples of people reciting for half an hour, charging £1,000 for half an hour worth of recitation. Ya ikhwan, this is something which the people have unfortunately turned the field of ruqya into a business. We've noticed a huge amount of people practicing ruqya in the last few years. Why? Because there's a gap in the market. Whenever there is a gap in the market, whenever there is a demand, people are going to come, fill that gap. They are fraudsters, they are cowboys, they are juhal, they are ignorant, and they have no knowledge of this field.
Rahim, alhamdulillahi wahda wa nusalli wa nusallimu ala man la nabiyya ba'da wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. Now we come to the conclusion, the 12th module of our 12-module Ruqya course, insha'Allah ta'ala, and that is a practice of a live Ruqya session bi-idhnillahi tabaraka wa ta'ala. But before we do so, there are going to be some ground rules, ya ikhwan. Ya ikhwan, jazakumullahu khairan. There are going to be some ground rules. First of all, you guys should have a great deal of, a great deal of respect and give a great deal of thanks to the brother who's volunteered to have the ruqya performed in front of so many people. This is the exception rather than the rule. We don't normally do this. But he's doing so, insha'Allah ta'ala, so that you can learn, so that you can witness, and so that bi'idhnillahi tabarak wa ta'ala, you can benefit, insha'Allah ta'ala, and insha'Allah azza wa jal, or that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this action of his a cause for his cure.
Ameen.
And all of you guys need to be making dua for this brother in the situation that he's in, because he's done you a great good deed to allow you to watch this. However, we will say absolutely strictly, there will be no recording, audio or video. This is an amana upon you. There is no recording, audio or video. Whatever camera is going to be on is going to show the sisters what is going on, nothing else. The other cameras are going off, insha'Allah ta'ala, and that is to respect the brother's privacy and to conceal sort of the problems that he's going through, insha'Allah ta'ala. Also, I'd like you guys to remember that we have absolutely no talking when the Quran is recited. Well, like Allah Azza wa Jal says, when the Quran is recited, فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ وَأَنصِتُوا لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. Listen to it and be silent so that you may receive the mercy of Allah. And that includes messing around on phones, texting, phoning, Facebook, Twitter, live commentary and whatever else goes on, yeah? So insha'Allah ta'ala, we will have Brother Basak. Where's Brother Basak gone? Can you stand up, Brother Basak? Brother Basak is going to be our enforcer. If he tells you to do something, insha'Allah ta'ala, I want you to do it, okay? Because Brother Basak is my ruqya partner. If he tells you to do something, don't do this, stop doing this, keep doing this. Can you move back, brother? Can you do this? You're going to listen to him, insha'Allah. Okay, because he's going to be responsible for making sure that you guys, inshallah, fulfill the conditions properly, bi'idhnillahi tabaraka wa ta'ala. And ultimately, I want you guys to learn and to benefit, inshallah. And ultimately, we want this to be of benefit for the brother and of benefit for yourselves, inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala. We are going to break up the ruqya session slightly, as in we may stop and pause at times to explain to you some things that are going on or to point out points of benefit, inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Without a shadow of a doubt, to try his best to learn as much of the Quran as he can. There's no doubt that the shaitan will try to confuse you in your recitation while you're reciting. And it's nice to have your ruqya partner there who will just remind you if you slip up on an ayah or if you make a mistake. And likewise for you to attend tajweed classes. We're not expecting you to be Sudais and Shuraim, but for you to attend some classes to try to improve your tajweed, to try to improve your recitation of the Quran, to get close to Allah Azza wa Jal with it. You saw the reaction of the brother, you saw how badly that Quran affected the shaitan. And I want you to take this as a rule, ya ikhwan. Every single shaitan is affected by the Quran like that, whether they show it to you or whether they don't show it to you. Some of them are incredibly, it's almost incredible that they don't show an obvious reaction, but they all feel like that, and in the end when they speak, and in the end before they die, they will admit that they all felt the same, but it was simply just the fact that some conceal it better than others. Not every patient you'll need 4 people to hold him down. But it is important that in general, you're just generally aware of the situation. You can ask the person if they have a history of when the Quran is recited, if they get particularly angry or violent. And in general, you have your ruqya partner with you, inshallah. If in the beginning you want to take, you want to go as a group of 2 or 3 brothers, inshallah ta'ala, maybe that's beneficial, inshallah. You don't have anything to worry about. The reality is that although it's nice to have people to hold him down, you could manage that ruqya case with one person if you had to. With complete trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and trying your very, very best, you can manage a case like that with one person if you have to. But of course, it's better, inshallah ta'ala, to try and keep the brother as comfortable as possible and stop him moving around as much as possible. Okay? Now I think you saw everything in there. I think you saw some key points highlighted, inshallah ta'ala. I think you guys got some experience, and you don't have to be overly concerned, inshallah ta'ala. You need to have the confidence to go and read on people. You won't get that reaction every time. You won't get it every time. But when it does come, it's important you're prepared and you know what you're doing and you're ready to read and recite the Quran for as long as possible. In reality, this wasn't a great ruqya session for the point that we didn't get into a great amount of the Quran. Normally we were chopping, changing, stopping, starting. Normally, when I hit it with as much Quran as possible for as long as possible, but we said this is min bab al-ta'aleem, for the point of educating you and supporting you to understand what's going on, insha'Allah ta'ala. So I'm going to hand over to our brother Abu Ibrahim, insha'Allah, to make some concluding remarks. We're not going to keep you too much longer, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. I would just like to conclude by asking Allah Azza wa Jal to teach us what benefits us and to benefit us with what He teaches us, and to give us all the ability to be du'at who call the people to tawheed, and those people who strive for the sake of Allah, and those people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enters into paradise without any account or without any reckoning, and those people who help their brothers. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to help us to the extent, or to help us by the fact that we strive and we make this effort to help our brothers, and we know that Allah Azza wa Jal is able to do that, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who's able to do all things. There is no jinn that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not able to remove, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests you. Allah Azza wa Jal, if He wanted to remove that jinn, it would have gone by now. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could remove it with kun fayakun, be and it is. But simply Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to test you, to take witness to your actions in this dunya, and to forgive the sins of the patient, and to correct the situation of the believers, and to allow the truth and the falsehood to be shown, and to punish those people. وَعَذَّبَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَذَلِكَ جَزَاءُ الْكَافِرِينَ, and to punish those people who disbelieve, and this is the eventual outcome of all of those people who disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Ikhwan, what we've witnessed there is in reality a struggle. It's a struggle between truth and falsehood. We had this shaitan who's possessing our brother, and he wants to make him prostrate to him. He wants to get our brother to prostrate to him. What we mentioned in terms of struggling and striving for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I hope bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, all of those theoretical modules that we did at the beginning, they all came together in this Ruqya session. So we mentioned from the hadith of the Messenger alayhi salam, how the jinn, they flow through the veins of Adam like his blood. You could see how he was twitching, one leg was twitching, we'd grab that leg, then the other leg would begin twitching. We'd grab that leg, the arm would begin twitching. In reality, this is the shaitan trying to run. This was the shaitan trying to run and hide in this brother's body. We saw, like our brother Hafidhullah has mentioned, subhanAllah, the immense words and the immense weightiness of the Quran. But you shouldn't model your ruqya on that one session that you saw. Normally, like our brother has mentioned, one reciter would be reciting for like an hour or 45 minutes. He would take a break, and then another person would be reciting for an hour or 45 minutes. Something like this. Not chopping and changing. We were only doing this just so to press the issue home that it's not me, or it's not Muhammad, it's not brother Azkar, it's other people, it's nobody. It's nobody. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who causes His words to have this effect. Also, an important issue is, our brother mentioned that if you were alone, then you could deal with this issue. In actual fact, I've been doing ruqya on this brother alone for 2 or 3 weeks. Okay? And alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you the tawfiq. Nothing special about me. I don't want you to think shaitan to come to you and say, what if I was alone and I came across a case like this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with complete tawakkul in Him, He would give you victory over this shaitan. So don't ever think or allow yourself to be overcome with fear. In actual fact, when you have the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if he is flailing his arms, you just need to sit 6 feet away and you recite, and the effect will be the same, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Other things that we need to mention, you saw how easy it was to bring the brother back. It was easy to bring the brother back. We just put some water on him, we called him, and he came back. As a general overview now, ikhwan, this knowledge, I don't think anything like this has been done before in the UK. But this knowledge is not for you now to keep in your notepads and to keep in your books and to then boast about it on Facebook that I went to this and I saw this and I saw that and I learned this and I learned that. Because in actual fact, perhaps on Yawm al-Qiyamah, if you do this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will question you about this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will question you that there are magicians on every single street corner calling our brothers and sisters to shirk, to associate partners with Allah. Our brothers and sisters are being thrown into mental homes because they go to the GP and the GP tells them that you are schizophrenic, you have lost your mind, you have bipolar, etc., etc. we have the ability bi'idhnillahi ta'ala to recite the Quran. If you can recite Surah Fatiha, Ikhlas, Falaq and Nas, then you can help your brother and sister in some way or another. What I would love to see is for our brothers and sisters to form groups or pairs of people helping out within their community. Your local masjid must be receiving calls every single day from people who are possessed, or they are under the influence of magic, or they have evil eye, and there's nobody to turn to. There's nobody to send these people to. So instead, your brothers, my brothers and our sisters, they are turning to Sikhs and Hindus and Christians. And when these things work because they commit shirk, our brothers and sisters, they become Christians and Jews and Hindus. So ya ikhwan, this is most definitely a struggle between truth and falsehood. What I want to do now, bi'idhnillah, I just want to send a register around with a pen and a paper and just take your name, your number, your email. And inshallah, what I want you brothers to do is don't jump straight into it and make this ruqya a career. But just take some time out for your brothers and sisters in need. Help them in any way that you can. And like we've mentioned, the things that we've mentioned today and yesterday from experience, you will quickly build up your experience. You will quickly, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, fear Allah. Allah will teach you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show you these different ways and means, and it will become easy for you, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. I'd like to thank this masjid, Dudley Masjid, the Ahlul Hadith Masjid. They've given us their facilities. They've accommodated for us. They offered for, to allow our brothers and sisters, our brothers to stay, whoever had come from far. This is, we make dua that this weighs heavily on their scale of good deeds. And whatever you brothers and sisters have heard here today, please take it away, please implement it, because if you don't, then there was no benefit. We just want you to implement something. Even if it means you go away, you no longer fear the shaitan. Even if it goes away, you mean you no longer fear the jinn. You've seen how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has caused them to become so weak. He was calling upon Iblis, we were calling upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and which one was suffering and screaming? It certainly wasn't us. So the one who has tawheed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him victory, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this from us, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from the shayateen, from amongst the jinn and the ins, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to heal and cure all of our brothers who are suffering. Anything else? Okay, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we'll end it there. If I can ask you brothers and sisters just to take you brothers to take this paper and pen, and if you inshallah just write down your details. If we have any issues, we'll try and keep in touch bi'idhnillah. When these videos are posted, we'll do our best to email you. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I will just add actually one point before we go anywhere. And this is just a point of contact. I gave you my website, muhammadtim.com. Brother Abu Ibrahim is on Facebook. I deleted mine. And, please do. If I will give preference to a brother who is doing ruqya on someone to help him over everyone else. Because I know if I help him, inshallah, he is likely to become a force for good, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, who's going to help his brothers and sisters. So, inshallah, you have our support and our help to the extent that we can. Please, please, please do start doing ruqya and start getting in contact, and inshallah ta'ala through this you will learn, and inshallah ta'ala Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you tawfiq. Wa akhiru da'wana an alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa salatu wassalam ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.